We're going back on the record. The time is 12:07 p.m. This is the beginning of Media Unit 3.
Okay. So, do you recall where this Dr. Saffold was alleged to have put hands on, or where this, where, do you know where room 253 is?
I have a rough idea of where that room is.
Okay.
It's on the second floor of the Central Service Building, closer to the east end.
And was there any particular event going on at this time when Dr. Saffold was alleged to have put hands on Dr. Ford?
Whatever. I think what I recall was that I think the snack cart was coming through.
The snack cart, okay. Is that a big deal, or what about the snack cart would have been significant?
Objection calls for speculation, lack of foundation.
Right.
Only that staff would participate in purchasing things from it.
Okay. And in fact, you not only got the footage, but you watched the footage in your office on your computer with Dr. Ford, correct?
Objection assumes facts, not in the record. Also, it's very argumentative.
That never took place.
Never took place. Okay. Let's go on to the next page, if you will. So, first I see that there are 2 blanks. Do you see that?
Yes.
What is underneath those blanks?
Other notes that I had taken?
Okay, about what?
I don't recall.
Okay. So then we've got something about Angela Ford.
Yes.
Do you recall making those notes?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And there's a blank spot after that. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. There's no nothing to indicate that there's a new subject there, is there?
Correct.
Okay. Because before you put Angela Ford and underline that, and then again here you put Angela Ford and underline that, right?
That's correct.
So there's nothing above this section here that's blanked out that would indicate a separate topic, right?
There's nothing visible here to suggest a separate topic.
Okay. What is this describing underneath here?
The Angela Ford received?
Okay.
Is that...
No, there's a
I'm
third blank, there's a third redaction on this page here. What is that redacting?
I don't recall that either.
Okay. And you went over these documents with your attorney when?
In the process of fulfilling a request for these documents.
Okay. And about how many days ago was that?
30, 45 days ago?
Okay. And,
Excuse me. There was a document request in this particular case made to Mr. Chason?
I didn't say that.
If there was, and I have not gotten a copy.
I'll keep that in mind.
So
We're talking about the what's the subpoena, the third party witness.
I think it's probably Keither too, right?
I did not get a subpoena with a document request on it.
It's
Okay. I'll keep that in mind.
So you're sending subpoenas that are not full to me, is what you're telling me.
No.
Because
I'm
the
not.
subpoena I got
Okay.
does not have a document request.
I'll keep that in mind for
No,
future
I want to
reference.
know why you're sending subpoenas out that are different to the parties in this case.
I don't know how things work in depositions that you participate in.
You
but
cannot
ones that
send
I don't answer questions. You don't.
You
have to
cannot
answer
send a
questions.
subpoena.
I'll keep that in mind for future reference.
No, it's procedure.
Okay.
So I'd ask that you turn over all the records that you received from this subpoena.
Okay.
All right.
Oh yeah. Okay. So, and again, some 30-some days ago when you reviewed this document, you knew what was under this box here, correct?
Yes.
But today you don't recall, right?
I don't recall.
Okay. So what are we privileged to see here on this document? What does that say?
Date 6/25, 2021, Angela Ford received copy of complaint from Miss Ford to be delivered to ERAD as WB.
What does that mean?
Miss Ford had handed to me in printed form everything that she had submitted to HR.
Okay. And then we're privileged to see one other piece of information at the bottom of this. It says what?
I believe that says M. Wade.
It's Michelle Wade, right?
That's my inference.
What does Michelle Wade email mean to you?
I don't recall.
Is it related to what's above this? That's blocked out?
I don't know.
But you knew 30 days ago, right?
If they were related.
Right, because you reviewed these 30 days ago.
Objection assumes facts not in the record.
Possibly.
Okay. And did you put this black mark on this page, or did somebody else?
Someone else.
Okay. And did you participate in the decision to put this black mark on this page?
Objection to the extent it relates to attorney work product, attorney-client privilege, information, and conversation.
You're directing him not to answer?
He can answer the question
Okay.
if you ask better ones.
Keep that in mind for future reference.
Will do.
The documents were turned over to my attorney, Mr. Grinnell.
Okay. So when you turned them over, they didn't have those black marks on there, right?
That is correct.
Okay. And you reviewed them before you turned them all over, right?
That is correct.
Okay. How did you obtain the documents to turn over to Mr. Grinnell?
I went through the documents that I had to ensure that they intersected with the request.
Okay. Now, let's look at the next page, if you will. There's another date on that, is that right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And this is July 1st.
That's correct.
Some 5, 6 days after your last discussion, your last note, we can say. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So the first line I have here is question of loyalty, and then what?
That's another one of my crossouts, and then to generation of black people.
Okay, what did that mean to you?
That was Miss Ford sharing with me the concept of her being disloyal to individuals in CNI who were African American.
And we're talking about Saffold or other people?
I don't remember if in this context it was specific to Saffold or more people,
Okay.
but at least Saffold.
And now it says begging for LTEs to hire wouldn't.
Let me hire.
What does that mean?
Miss Ford had shared with me that she was attempting to hire LTEs. She was attempting to hire LTEs and that she was not getting the approval to do so, I believe, from Saffold.
Did you understand at that time why hiring of LTEs would have been important to Dr. Saffold's, Dr. Ford's position?
At least in the execution of the work that was expected of her, yes.
Okay. And did you understand that other people were not having similar problems hiring LTEs at that time?
Check the form of the question. It's broad and vague as well as calls for speculation and lacks foundation.
Join.
I don't know if I knew that.
Okay. Have you subsequently learned that?
I don't know with respect to LTEs.
Okay. Have you ever been at a board meeting where the subject of LTEs came up?
It's the approval and review of LTEs is a monthly matter in front of the board.
Why?
The policy for LTEs is that under a certain time frame, they simply need to be reported to the board for a time frame. I believe over 90 days. It requires the approval of the board.
Okay. And so, based on this, did you believe at that time that she was not allowed to hire LTEs because of perceptions of a lack of loyalty to generations of black people.
Check the foundation. Also performance argumentative.
I don't know if,
Go ahead.
I don't know if in this instance it was specific to that, or if it was just the sort of bullying and behaviors of just denying Miss Ford the opportunity to do her work. I can't remember if they were related or not.
Okay, because you didn't investigate either, right?
That is correct.
Okay. So the next line says, told you need to diversity.
I think diversify.
Diversify, okay. What does that mean?
Ms. Ford shared with me that an individual in a supervisory capacity, and I don't recall if this was Ms. Saffold or Dr. Holliday, setting the expectation for Ms. Ford that she needed to diversify.
Okay. And then what's the next line say?
Implication, don't hire white under Saffold and Holliday.
Okay. And is that Dr. Ford speaking or something else?
That is Dr. Ford speaking.
Okay. So she's telling you, and correct me if I'm wrong, that what she took the statement, you need to diversify, to mean was don't hire white people. Is that right?
Yes,
Okay. And that's under both Saffold and Holliday, right?
correct,
Okay. And Saffold's still there now, right?
correct.
Okay. And Holliday has been demoted, but he still works for MPS, right?
He still works for MPS, yes.
Okay. And he wasn't demoted based on these accusations, correct?
Correct,
That's because you never reported them, right?
Objection argumentative.
correct.
Okay. Because again, as you knew at that time, HR could not have done any adverse action to Dr. Holliday based on Dr. Saffold's complaints, other than assign him to attend training, right?
Objection misstates testimony.
Yes, that they could recommend discipline, but I don't think that they can, in fact, enforce it.
Great. Can you please explain to me this next line here that starts with people?
People, okay. So what I recall is capturing people like us don't stick together, those people stick together, and then to make sure that I captured Ms. Ford's intent clearly, I then, I think in the moment, placed black in a circle around that first phrase and white in a circle around that second phrase.
Okay, and there are quotation marks in that line, is that right?
That's correct.
What does those quotation marks indicate?
The intent would have been to capture a quote that Ms. Ford was sharing with me.
Okay. Based on Dr. Ford's allegations and your general work experience, do you believe that Dr. Saffold was hiring LTEs according to policy?
Check the foundation. Calls for speculation.
Can you say that question again?
Mm-hmm. I'll just ask it myself.
Sure.
Based on Dr. Ford's allegations and your work experience, do you believe that Dr. Saffold was hiring LTEs according to policy?
Check the foundation as well as speculation.
Join.
I don't know.
And I want to be clear, your answer means you don't know with the KN, as in you're unaware?
I don't know what her practice for hiring LTEs was or
Okay.
is.
I just want to be clear because I thought I heard that.
Can you
as
let
I
him
don't,
finish his
comma,
answer?
no, N-O. Is that what you meant?
I guess I don't. KNOW.
Thank you. Okay. So, and then this next line, is that preferential? What's the first word in that next line?
Yeah, professional working relationship.
What does that mean?
I don't know. I don't recall the context or the meaning of that one.
Okay. And then it says, wouldn't let me hire LTEs because they are white. Did I read that right?
Because they are white, yep.
Because they are white, okay. And so cause is short for because they are?
That is correct.
Okay. So, what does that mean?
Ms. Ford was sharing with me that she was unable to hire LTEs who are white, and I believe the this was because of Dr. Saffold.
Okay, and again, you chose not to report that to Dr. Posley, right?
Correct.
And you chose not to report that to the board, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then there's another line that says, my interview question included, and then I don't understand.
Down a couple lines, correct?
Please.
My interview questions included, what would you work on for diversity?
Okay, and what does that mean to you?
I think Ms. Ford had shared with me that when she was interviewed for the position that she was in at this time, that she was asked, hey, how would you work, build, develop diversity in the team in the area?
Okay. And I guess before I cast your mind back here, there's a line.
I'm sorry.
Cast your mind back.
Okay.
I'm sorry. There's a line here that we did skip over, and it says Felt was hired, and can you translate that, please?
Sure. So Felt was hired, BC is my shorthand for because, Black, and expectation you will hire Black.
Okay. And you're familiar with Deb Bowling's complaint against Dr. Holliday, right?
Yes.
Okay. And that's because you've read both the complaint and the reports by the city attorney's office?
Yes.
Okay. And you're aware that the city attorney's office found that Dr. Holliday engaged in inappropriate hiring practices based on race, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And those allegations are similar to the allegations that Dr. Ford is making here in your notes, correct?
Objective form of the questions, broad and vague as well as argumentative, and lacks foundation.
Correct.
Okay. And again, these complaints are about both Dr. Saffold and Dr. Holliday, correct?
I don't know if this specific one was related to Holiday, but I'm very certain that it was at least related to Saffold.
Okay. And can you read for me that penultimate line there?
Penultimate, we're talking from the bottom of the page, right?
Yep.
Yep. Basically being told I'm an Uncle Tom.
Okay. And there's quotations there, right?
Yes.
Okay. And what did that mean to you?
And I don't remember the attribution, but that was Miss Ford saying that she felt either explicitly or either explicitly told or through behaviors received that she is an Uncle Tom.
Okay. And that's a race-based comment as far as you understand it, right?
I have inferred it as such.
Okay. But you also have knowledge of that independent of what Dr. Ford shared with you, right?
Objection vague.
Join.
Can you say that again?
Yeah, you have knowledge of what the term Uncle Tom
Oh.
means independent of what Dr. Ford shared with you.
Yes, yes.
Okay. And then it says Saffold told Ford to falsify leave/requests and wouldn't. Is that right?
That is correct.
What does that mean?
Miss Ford had shared that there was a leave or an absence that she had taken, and that in order to sort of complete the record, she was going to submit either the absence form or the absence slip consistent with what had taken place. And Dr. Saffold, I don't remember why, but Ms. Ford had shared that Dr. Saffold said do it differently, and Ms. Ford was uncomfortable filling out the form that did not reflect the record accurately.
Okay. And your office has at least two mandates, if I'm correct. One of them is to investigate whistleblower complaints, and the other one is to do audits. Is that right?
We don't perform audits.
Okay. What is your goal, or what is your job or your office's role in investigating financial matters?
So we don't investigate financial matters, but we are charged with oversight of financial operations and improving fiscal transparency.
Okay, so would determining whether or not Dr. Saffold falsified leave/request, does that fall under your purview?
As a whistleblower matter, yes.
Okay, what about as a efficiency matter?
I mean, there's no charge to investigate an efficiency matter, but certainly as a whistleblower.
So you don't have any responsibility to investigate efficiency issues as they arise to you. Is that right?
But there's no policy provision for an avenue for an efficiency request, but certainly within the framework of a whistleblower matter.
Okay, but so if somebody brings fraud to you, that's only being brought to you in the context of whistleblower or something else?
Only in the context of whistleblower.
Okay, then let me just back up 1 second. Your office investigates whistleblower protections when you feel that's appropriate, right?
Correct.
Okay, what else does your office do?
So we're responsible for information requests, either from the board or from other staff, special projects as assigned by the board, the 5-year forecast that is brought to the board. We also handle independent impartial hearing officer selection, and the bulk of the work is just special projects as requested.
Okay, and those are special projects that are requested by either individual board members or the entire board, right?
They can come from the administration as well.
Okay. Have you ever turned down a request by the administration to perform a special project?
Or I don't recall.
Okay. Have you ever refused to do a special project by a specific board member?
Objection.
I don't recall.
Yes,
Okay, but
sir.
you're able to do that, right?
Policy permits it.
Okay, but you don't recall a specific instance?
I don't recall a specific instance.
Okay. Has the board ever directed you by vote to complete a special project?
Yes.
What, if any, projects are those?
We were asked to complete a review of LTEs within the district. We were asked to complete an assessment of the diversity of the workforce of the district. Those are some examples, but they're not exhaustive.
Okay. So, again, if somebody brings to you a matter of fraud, you're only investigating that fraud in the context of the general whistleblower allegations. Is that right?
Yeah, it would not be unprecedented for us to make that as a referral then to the internal audit team, who under policy does have responsibility for fraud, waste, and abuse.
Okay, who's in the internal audit team?
They are part of the Office of Board Governance.
Okay, who is that?
The Office of Board Governance?
No, who is this team?
They are the internal audit team of the district.
Are they composed of any individuals?
They have 5 or 6 staff members.
And these people are all under Jackie Mann, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. And did you report this accusation of fraud and abuse that Dr. Ford made about Dr. Saffold to that team?
I'm objecting. Question's argumentative. Calls for speculation as well.
I did not.
Okay, why not?
Yeah, I think my thinking was that this would also be handled by HR.
Oh, okay. So, before we go on, we're going to take a slight detour into Teresa Falleron. And do you know who Teresa Falleron is?
Yes.
Who is Teresa Falleron?
She works with the MPSU, which is the Milwaukee Public Schools University in the district.
Okay. Has she made a whistleblower complaint to you?
Yes, she has.
Okay. And what was that complaint about?
That was about concerns surrounding MPSU related to the rollout of the program and rollout of the program and other concerns related to MPSU.
Okay. Did she make any concerns about fraud, waste, or abuse?
I'm going to object to this line of question. It's irrelevant to this particular case. It's also, again, an abuse of this process. But
I think so.
Okay. At any time, did you take those reports of fraud, waste, and abuse and hand them to I'm sorry, I forgot the name of the team that we were just talking about.
Internal audit.
Internal audit team.
I did share some documents with them, but they were also, if I understand right, charged to perform an audit of MBSU.
What does that mean?
So our internal audit team was, I think, directed to perform a review of MPSU.
Okay, do you know who directed that?
I think Dr. Mann.
Okay, do you know why she directed that?
Check the foundation. Also, again, we're getting into an area that is completely irrelevant, and this is abusing this process because it has nothing to do with this particular matter.
I believe it was at the request of the board or the board president.
That's Bob Peterson.
That is correct.
Okay. And I just want to be clear, this is the same process that would have been followed, or could have been followed with Dr. Ford, and I'm comparing that same process to what happened with Teresa Fallaround's complaint. Is that your understanding?
Yeah, the only distinction between those two is that the internal audit team had been charged specifically to look at the concerns also related to Ms. Fallaround's complaint.
Okay. So then, did you bring those documents to the internal audit team because they were already conducting an audit, or because of something else?
Same objections, relevance, abusive process.
Yeah, they were produced for internal audit as a result of their being charged to perform an audit.
Okay, so bringing this back to Dr. Ford, similarly to when Dr. Ford raised allegations of fraud, waste, and abuse by Dr. Saffold, you didn't bring those to the internal audit team. You also didn't bring Teresa Fallaround's accusations of waste, fraud, and abuse to the internal audit team.
I'm going to object. First of all, it's compound. Secondly, it's argumentative. Third, he did not talk about abuse of process and finance with regard to Dr. Ford or Saffold. That is testimony that's not in this record, and it's argumentative. Go ahead and answer if you can.
Join.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. So let's just move on for a second. You keep internal records at your office, right?
Mm-hmm.
How are those records?
Yes.
How are those records maintained?
Generally electronically, unless they're handwritten notes.
Okay, and specifically now referring to these handwritten notes here, how are these handwritten notes compiled and maintained?
In a notebook, and then those are just retained.
Okay, have they ever been copied, other than for provide them for here, for this purpose?
If they've been copied for any purpose outside of here, I don't recall.
Okay. I guess another way to put that is, are those physical copies the only copies of those documents?
Correct.
Okay. And does your office have a document retention policy?
Yes, it's consistent with the district's document retention policy.
Okay. And does the district document retention policy allow for keeping documents in hard copy notebooks?
Yes.
Okay. How so?
The creation of a document instantiates it, and then under statute, there's at least a 7-year retention, and then there's that window that it must be maintained or persisted.
Great. Does Jackie Mann have access to your office's documents?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Has Jackie Mann ever asked for documents from your office?
Yes, or at least governance has as a function of an open records request.
I appreciate that response. Okay. What were those open records responses?
There have been several. Sometimes they take the form of an information request, like what are the total number of things. Sometimes they are to produce actual physical documents. We've received both.
Okay. And you've produced all the records that you had in response to Dr. Mann's request, or the office's request?
I believe we've satisfied every request that we've received.
And when you say we, who are you referring to there?
The colloquial of my office.
Just, right, okay, but we're not talking about MPS, we're talking about OAE, right?
Correct.
Thank you for the clarification. Okay. Do you know who Lonnie Anderson is?
Yes.
Who is Lonnie Anderson?
He is a staff member in organizational development.
Okay. Has he ever reported any fraud, waste, or abuse issues to you?
He has not.
Okay. Have you ever investigated any fraud, waste, or abuse issues within his office?
In so much as NPSU at one time I believe was under his purview, and then to that extent we have.
Okay, and that's in regards to the MPSU general audit or the Teresa Folaron accusations or something else?
Ms. Folleron's allegations, yeah.
Okay. And how, if any, did Lonnie Anderson respond?
Object to the form of the question, broad and vague, as well as irrelevant and, again, abusive process. This is not involving this matter.
There was no response from Mr. Anderson.
And I just want to make sure I have that right. You requested something of Mr. Anderson and he just didn't respond, or something else?
My apologies. Mr. Anderson at one time oversaw NPSU. When we conducted our review of Ms. Folleron's concern, that had been moved out from underneath Mr. Anderson, and so we did not engage Mr. Anderson in the review.
Now I understand. Do you know why it was moved out from underneath Mr. Anderson?
I don't know.
Okay. Okay, but you don't have any information to know whether it was in relation to your investigation of Dr. Folleron's concerns? Or
Again, I'm going to, this line of questioning, it's irrelevant, lacks any association with this case, and this is an abusive process.
I don't know if there's any intersection there.
okay. Who else besides Lonnie Anderson did you reach out to in regard to Teresa Folleron's complaint?
We had conversations with Amy Chastik. And I had reached out to HR to obtain a review that was done by HR of concerns related to MPSU as well.
Okay. And just for foundation purposes, who is Amy Chastik?
She's a former MPS employee who was involved with MPSU.
Okay. And did she ever make any, raise any concerns to you?
Yes, she did.
What were those concerns?
Check the form of the question. Broad and vague, also irrelevant, and again, abusing the process.
So they were related to MPSU, similar to Ms. Folleron's.
Okay. And were they regarding waste, fraud, and abuse?
I didn't consider them as such, but certainly concerns under a whistleblower provision.
Okay. And you took notes regarding Ms. Chastik's complaints, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And you provided them to, I guess, you provided them in response to a Equal Rights Division request, right?
Yeah, to satisfy a ALJ ruling.
Okay. So, just to move back, though, where we were on this Exhibit 3,
It's Exhibit 2, or is it 3?
I believe it's 3.
Okay.
So, and I'm going to go down a few lines. It said, felt was hard to be black, and expectation you'll hire black, right? We read that, so I'm gonna move down 2 lines.
Okay.
It says and then I interview, and I'm lost from there.
My interview questions included, what would you work on for diversity?
Okay. And she says offer art classes to diversify, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And then she says I only hire the best candidate. Did I read that right?
Yes.
Okay. And then she says did not want to be hired because black. Did I read that right?
Correct.
Can we clarify that she is referring to Dr. Ford?
Yes, these statements are those of Ms. Ford.
Thank you.
Right. Right, I think we were clear on that. Okay. So, but this is, do I understand this to mean that she is resisting hiring somebody based on their race?
When you say she,
That Dr. Ford is resisting hiring somebody based on her race?
no, this was not Ms. Ford saying that, can you say that again? I'm sorry.
Sure. Is the statement, I only hire the best candidate? That's Dr. Ford speaking, right?
That is correct.
Okay. And then when she says that, does that mean that she's resisting hiring LTEs on a basis, or on a racial basis?
Check the foundation, calls for speculation.
Joined.
That's my inference.
Right, but and you're the one who wrote this, right?
Correct.
Okay. Now there's another line that says, secretary told me, and there's a quote. Can you read out that quote?
So, yeah, secretary told me you're a sellout, always hiring white people, and I attributed that to Jerry Lewis.
Okay. And then, if you can just keep going, I appreciate that.
Sure. The next line reads, Saffold knew about legal representation, despite Ford never saying it to anyone.
Okay, what does that mean to you?
I believe Ms. Ford was sharing that Dr. Saffold had some awareness that Ms. Ford had retained or sought legal representation